10, 9.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
Get ready for two guys who can't handle the truth.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
But we can. Dave Palumbo, Chris Aceto. RxMuscle.com presents Heavy Muscle Radio. Watch out!
Welcome to another episode of Heavy Muscle Radio. I'm Dave Palumbo, and I'm joined by John Romano today on this November 12th, 2018 afternoon. John, this might be one of the more aggravating Heavy Muscle Radios of all time because we recorded last night, you, me, and Chris Aceto. It was probably the fans would have liked it better. We probably would have been disbarred from the industry, but somehow mysteriously didn't record properly. So we're redoing it. It's very hard to redo a radio show, John, as you know, when you put so much energy into the first version, you know?
Yeah, I'm just happy to be back with you as the original co-hosts of this amazing show almost 10 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah, so I think, the fact that we got to do another one, I'm sorry Chris isn't here right now, but the fact that we got to do another one is okay with me because
you got your juices going. You got the juices going.
Yeah, I love doing this with you, man, and the fans love when we do this together. And this was our original. This is how we started this whole thing with you and me with Heavy Muscle Radio.
Yeah, I listen back to some of the old ones. Once in a while, someone will send me like a link to one. Even one of some of the old MD shows that we originally started. It was so much different. The pace was different. We were like frantic, like frenetic almost because it's unnerving. People don't realize it's not that easy just to do a podcast. Everyone today has a podcast. I listen to some of these podcasts. They're horrendous. Everyone and their mom thinks that they could do a podcast now just because it's easy to record things. Although I have to say I'm still having a difficult time hitting the record button properly.
But why do they all do them from their car?
I don't know. Because no one, you know what the truth is? No one can find a fucking quiet place to do things anymore, right?
Yeah, right. So they got to do it in their car.
Lee Priest's best TV shows are when he's in his car because it's nice and quiet in there. You too. You too.
Well, a couple times I had a good studio shot in the truck. Yeah. I'm in my office now. It's totally quiet.
Yeah.
This is comfortable, But I mean, we did those shows like together though. We were at your house in your office.
Oh, the original ones, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, those were classics. Yeah.
But look, all these podcasts exist today because you and me went head to head with Bob and Dan,
right?
And that's why there is bodybuilding radio today.
Yeah.
So
we got to give Dan his props because Dan really started the whole thing, and then we kind of jumped in, and Dan's whole thing was I'm going to put together a show. It's going to feature guest every week and talk about the gossip of the industry. Never more than 1 hour. I don't think they ever did a show more than 1 hour. And they only did 35 shows a year. Dan didn't want to, push the envelope too much. He didn't want to be too uncomfortable. And you and I said we're just going to be this relentless workhorse of voluminous information that people could use while they're doing their cardio.
Right.
And we would do 2-3 hour shows sometimes.
Yeah.
People don't realize that. And we never missed. We have never missed a week, even though you have come and gone. I've never missed an RxMuscle Heavy Muscle Radio show ever. There's never been a down weekend since 2009 when we started. I think February 2009. That's every weekend. So think about it. This February it'll be 10 years that we have completed. It'll be 10 years we did. So that's 52 weekends a year times 10 years. So what is that? 500? How many shows is that? 520 shows, right?
520 shows.
That's crazy. How many hours of our life has been expended? Think about that.
Not only that, but we were doing remote stuff, and we traveled to the Arnold, the Olympia, and
absolutely
we worked. I don't think there was ever more of an effort to get something off the ground the way we worked that first couple of years, man. You remember in the back of your car with that converter I got that we could plug the computers into the cigarette lighter?
Yeah, you're right. We did a radio show on the way home from Boston.
On the Jersey Turnpike. Jeff, the producer, was in the back tagging photos, and we were doing a show. And Sean was in the front seat doing something. And we were like, nobody was doing the kind of coverage that we were doing and the entertainment that we were doing, because as good as our coverage was, our entertainment was nuts. We had the Smalley brothers chasing chickens around the warehouse and the eating contest, and we had Valentino on. We had remember with those crazy shows with Derek Anthony, and we did stuff nobody could ever do. And the fact that, man, 10 years without interruption, and you and I are sitting here like we were on day one.
That's right.
It's
true.
It's a testament to the amazing effort you put into maintaining this.
It's just the psychotic tendency that you and I have of being OCD on all this stuff. I just feel like the fans need to be connected to something. I like to have something that I'm connected to, like that I can always depend on. It's always there for me, even on the bad times, the good times. Just I know that they're always there. That's why I love to watch Cheers, the TV show. Right? Everyone loved Cheers because it was like a show to watch every week. You knew it was there. You knew those guys, and it was sad when they stopped. So same thing with the radio show. Believe me, bodybuilders have up days, down days, and they know that they can always tune in from Monday to the latest Heavy Muscle radio show, and they're going to hear us complain and bitch, and because we have shit going on in our life too, and things go wrong. My tooth's hurting me now, and they want to hear that stuff because it distracts them from their own misery and their own stuff that's going on in their life. And
that transparency, they get to know us. We're pretty open about our lives and what we do. And what we've done. So yeah, I mean, I think that's part of what endears us to them. Plus, we talk to everybody. I return every freaking email, every message, every Facebook post. I'm pay attention to people, So and you do too, man. You have that. How many? What's the number on the Ask Dave thread now? It's got to be gazillions.
Well, I don't even do the thread anymore because we do the Ask Dave TV show. But I mean, I get at least 20,000 views on that TV show every single week. So
that's incredible.
I mean, it is pretty mind-boggling when you think about the reach that we have at this point. But you mentioned Derek Anthony earlier, and someone had brought up to me that it's going to be 5 years that Derek will have passed.
Wow.
And I think we should do a Derek Anthony reunion show. Like I think we should get me, you, Jimmy the Bull. Who else was a big Jeff?
The Smalley
maybe
brothers.
One of the Smalley brothers. I don't know if I could take both of them on the same show. It might be too much.
No, it's for Derek. You might have to.
I know, but it's
just warn Mr. G that that's the kind of show it is. So
right.
So if he's going to wear a boa, it should be a black one.
Well, he's got his chips, his protein chips that are delicious. The Mr. Potts.
What he should do is he should use that opportunity to introduce like the Derek Anthony memorial flavor.
It's not a bad idea because he's got this character, Mr. Potts. That's the whole. It's a brilliant idea, but I have a feeling that I don't know if it's ever going to make it off the ground. He sends me the chips; they're delicious. They're actually addicting. You can't stop eating them. And he keeps changing them. Every time I get another bag, it's like a new twist on it. So I don't know where they're available yet, but I know that that's like his whole life energy is poured into that. So anyway, you're right. They should have like a Derek Anthony character on there.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to support the neighborhood. I mean, because Derek was like, had sponsors. The pizza place, the car wash.
That's right. For his TV show.
Right. So I mean, it's just like Mr. G should make give Derek some immortality in one of his chip flavors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. The NPC Nationals are coming up this weekend, as you probably know.
I love that. That's where my wife got her program.
I remember. I was there.
Yep.
And I always loved that show. I think it's one of the greatest shows. It's funny. The best I've done at the show is second to Tony Freeman in 2002, which today would have yielded me a pro card because they give top 2 in every class of pro cards.
You'd have had 7 pro cards now.
For something like that.
Where they're handing them out.
Now, which is, a lot of people are always saying, and I asked this question. We talked about this topic last night about, why is it that guys are not turning pro anymore and then being major impact players on the open bodybuilding scene immediately? Why it's taking so many years? And the question is, are they turning too many people pro? Because not only are you getting 2 pro cards in each weight class from the Nationals, you get 1 pro card in each class from the North American and from the USA, and then you got Masters divisions, which start now at 35 and over. So you're giving 35 and over guys, which are still open guys, for most open guys, still getting better in their 30s,
Right.
So you might be giving out 10 pro cards, to the top the top NPC men's open guys. And so you're exhausting the supply every year. So you're always having to get new guys every year coming up. And it's hard. Back in the day, they gave 1 pro card out, the overall at the USA, and 1 for the weight class winners at the Nationals, and then 1 overall. So you gave away, basically, in the heavyweight class, you gave 3, maybe 3 pro cards a year. And that's only if the heavyweight won the overall at the USA and North American. So every year it was the same guys competing against each other and having to get better and better and better. The top 5 at the Nationals in USA was like a pro show. Basically.
Yeah, oh hell yeah, it was. I mean, I remember, when you had, Jay Cutler, Mike Matarazzo, the Flex Wheeler, Kevin Levrone, all of these guys were none of them, just skyrocketed out of the high school gym show and into the pro ranks. No. I mean, those guys battled.
91 Nationals, Levrone, right?
Right.
Paul DeMeo, Flex Wheeler, Matt Mendenhall, and Ronnie Coleman. Does it get any better than that?
Right.
And Ronnie didn't win. That was the funny thing.
Exactly.
Because Ronnie was natural. He didn't even know guys took steroids back then.
Yeah, no, he didn't. That's the funniest story in the world. But you make a great point, Dave, and we sort of touched on it last night. But I don't know. I don't agree with this classic division being the incubator for the monster class. I think that should be, if you're doing open bodybuilding at the national level. There should be no discernible segue from that to what it was back in the day. You're going for the pros after that.
Right, but the problem is, though, with Classic is that it's a great division. You know what I mean? It does, because they really needed to have they needed something between men's physique and open. But what's happening is guys are using the Classic, as a way to turn pro quicker. So the guys in good shape are,
Right.
There's no way to stop that.
I just don't agree with that, man. It's like what's the rush to turn pro so that you can just not pay entry fees anymore?
No, you could pay, so you can put it on your Instagram. It's all about social media status, right? I mean,
well, I guess it is, but that doesn't monetize.
Did you ever play Dungeons and Dragons when you were a kid?
Of course not.
You were too cool. Dungeons and Dragons was a fantasy role playing game where you would pick a character, and then it was all done. There was no computers back then, so it was all done like out loud. It was like just made up. Like there would be one guy who was the dungeon master who would basically tell you what's going on, and you'd run into this character, this evil wolf, and you'd have to fight him. And so as your characters developed and more experience with killing off other things and getting gold and finding treasures, you would get more experience. You'd move up in level. Okay, and so you'd be able to have like
Democratic Party. That's right.
You'd have like level 1, 2, 3, and you have different statuses. They would be different titles for that. That's what Instagram is nowadays. Everyone wants another title to add to their list of accolades on Instagram to make themselves look more important. Now the new thing is you can get verified, I think, on Instagram.
I do not have an Instagram. Well, I do have one. I just don't ever use it.
Well, you see, you're not relevant anymore if you don't have Instagram. So you have to get into Instagram.
Facebook, I guess.
I know. I like it. They say all the old people use Facebook, so you have to get into Instagram now because Instagram is more instant. It's really what it is. It's more instant gratification. It wasn't that Facebook was not fast enough because you had to actually read the text that people wrote. Now, no one wants to read anymore. Fuck that. Just put pictures up and you have to make your own assumptions on what you're looking at. And you know what?
And hashtag creativity.
Right, and you have to hashtag everything. Like anyone who search, I don't even search hashtags, but there were people who do that. Like, hey, I like snakes. I'm going to hashtag albino snakes, and anything that's hashtag with that will pop up.
And some of those hashtags are ludicrous, Doesn't live in mommy's basement anymore.
Right. Like who's gonna really search that? Yeah, who's gonna hashtag that?
But the thing that Facebook's I like to write shit, so and stir the pot.
You can still write on Instagram, but the point is that people want to look important, and if they don't put IFBB Pro, if they don't have IFBB Pro status next to their name on Instagram, then people won't take them seriously what they're saying. All of a sudden, they feel like they can say whatever they want, and it has more validity if they have that IFBB Pro next to it. And you know what? It might, because a lot of newbies who come into the industry, oh, I want to get into bodybuilding. Oh, that guy's an IFBB Pro. Oh, I'll hire him to coach me,
Yeah, but it just diluted the significance of that pro card, man. And it's like everybody thinks they can grab one now. I mean, you got 60-year-old guys saying, I'm going to grab a pro card. What makes you think that? I mean, it's a pro card used to be
important. Yeah.
Important, I mean, not that it's not important today, but it was coveted. It was fought for. They were rare. It was hard to get, and today, man, I mean, everybody's got a pro card. I mean, the fucking beer tub girls got a pro card.
Maybe they have to, maybe they have to make like another level up. Like if you win a pro show, you actually get another status. You know what I'm saying?
Wasn't that like the universe, sort of purpose? Is that those were all amateurs in the universe?
Yeah.
From the top one from each, country.
Well, that was just the field, because the Mr. Universe contest, it still might be. It's obviously it's not part of the current NPC IFBB Pro League anymore. It's part of Raphael's league, but. It used to be a drug-tested show, which is kind of ridiculous, the whole thing, because no one was drug-free. They just were drug-free for the drug test. But,
not even that.
So, in order for the U.S. to participate in it, because we didn't really have any specifically drug-tested shows, we had that Team Universe, which they still drug test for there, and then the open men's category, so they would field a team of the winners from each weight class, and they would send them to the World Championships. And I thought it was cool. People got to travel, they paid for everything, and it was
great.
It was a nice experience. But it didn't really mean anything. But the point is that I'm saying maybe if you win a pro show, you can get like IFBB Pro, Victor or something. I don't know. This should be like another level, because everyone's at the status. They got to make another status. Like if you're, and then obviously Mr. Olympia is a title that no one can take away from you if you put that in front of your name.
True. But why is it that today we're not talking about that 90s lineup? I mean, what is missing? What is?
There was only bodybuilding back then, John. And first of all, I think the 90s were a very special decade. For some reason, there was a tremendous amount of talent that came out in that era. I don't know why or what was in the water. I attribute it to the whole Venice, California lifestyle, the desire for people to move out to California, train in one place, and I think everyone kind of raised each other up to a higher level there, because when you see all your competition training right next to you, it makes you train harder, right? It makes you do things that are to be better and greater, because you see the people with you.
I was there, man. Gold's Gym back in that time, you had in before it expanded and got really big, and when it was just that one giant room, I mean, you had the top, you had like 10 guys going, training for the Nationals in the same room.
Yeah.
And I mean, you show up and everybody was, peeled off, or, most guys did not cover up back then, man. They were in tank tops, and, they were peeled, and every day, man, it was like, it kept them, on track, because tomorrow morning I'm going to be in the gym with, Tom Platz, Gary Stride, Matt, and all, and they're all going to be like training, and I'm going to, and Mike Christian, and, Bob Paris, these amazing guys that were like going to compete against you that season.
And when those guys were done, they still trained there. And even if they didn't, it didn't matter because the new guys who were coming up were there. And if you didn't live there, like maybe someone like I didn't, you were out there 6 times a year, every month, once a month, every other month, just to train in that environment and to be seen because that's where the photographers were.
Right.
If you wanted to get in a magazine, you had to be out there. So that to me was the breeding ground for greatness in that. And that's really what Bader Badai out at Oxygen Gym there in Kuwait was trying to create and has created to a certain degree. It's just that no one wants to go out there, and live there because it's very solitary. The Venice was a lot to do there, Yeah, Kuwait is nothing to do there. But
the fact that probably 90% of every photo shoot printed in a magazine was shot at Gold's Gym in Venice. And, after the Nationals, after the USA, after any show, those winners, they flew them in. From wherever the show was.
You had to because
Miami, they flew them to LA.
You had to because there was no internet, there was no selfies, there was nothing. You had to have if the only coverage out there was in the magazines.
Right. So at any given day at Gold's Gym, you're going to see in a photo shoot of somebody you've seen in a magazine. And that do you think that's not motivating? How many guys stood there behind the brightness of those lights, looking at somebody getting photographed and saying to themselves, "Man, I'm going to be that's where next month, man, I'm going to win. I'm going to be there." It's there was so much motivation through all of that. I think I asked the question of what you think, but I think that whole lack of, and you hit it, is that lack of that environment, I think, is what's not given us a really stellar list of guys who are coming out of the woodwork to bust into the pro ranks.
I think you and I we uncovered it. Really, we just did it. We didn't really realize it, but we kind of just figured it out. And I think if you take the top guys today and you put them into that environment, I think that they would rise to the top and become better and greater than they were. I think people today in other words, how you get into that comfort zone of training? If you're in a comfort zone, you're never going to improve. I hated training with this one guy every day because he would always push me out of my comfort zone, and it drove me crazy. But I knew it was good for me. I needed it. Right. That's the only way. Who wants to squat 600 pounds? It's very hard to self-motivate yourself that, especially when you're more concerned about taking pictures for your Instagram than you are to actually squatting a lot of weight.
Very, very good point.
It's not. I don't blame the guys today. I don't think that they're lazy by any means. I think it's just there's no environment that's conducive to making them better than they are.
They're consumed by the collective. That dynamic is what consumes them. It's not their dynamic has never been the Charles Glass model or the Gold's Gym era training where they're used to instant gratification, want it now. Nobody wants to wait. So that ethic has been sort of evolved out of society for the great many, and that's what's going on. There's no environment to motivate. If you're training in the gym with 5 of the guys you're going to compete against that season, under the auspice of 2 Mr. Olympias, 5 Mr. Universes, multiple USA and Nationals winners,
and Arnold walking in every once in a while.
Arnold, Louis, those superstars walking around. There's no way you're going to tell me that same ability to generate intensity is going to be equal in that environment versus Stone Cold's 24-hour fitness in Wyoming.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? There's that brotherhood breeds harder work.
And that brotherhood influenced the rest of the world, the rest of the country too, because think about it. You didn't have to be in Venice, but you knew what was going on in Venice, so you trained harder at home in New York or wherever you live, New Jersey, Florida, because you knew that these guys were training that hard. Matter of fact, I think I trained harder because I didn't even know what they were doing there. I anticipated, I probably thought they were training even harder than they were. And when I would go out to Venice and get under a squat bar, people looked at me like I was crazy because people really didn't train legs. They trained legs differently in California. They were into more leg pressing and stuff like that.
Right.
And so that's where the New York versus the West Coast, East Coast training, thing, right? That was that rivalry went down. Who trains harder? So that even pushed guys even more. So I think, and like I said, I don't blame the guys today. I would never call the guys today lazy. I think they just don't know any better.
They just don't, They just don't know.
They weren't from that era. They don't understand what it was about, and that they only know what they know now, and that's all they can do. So it's going to take it's going to take a couple of people who train like demons to really dominate the bodybuilding landscape, who might inspire the rest of the guys to raise their.
Yeah, somebody's got to start throwing down, man.
Look what's going on in Canada. All of a sudden, Canada is the breeding ground of great bodybuilders and classic physique guys. There's a lot of top pros coming out of there now, and that never was the case. The U.S. was always dominant over Canada, and I don't think it's that they're that all of a sudden someone had a lot of good genetic babies up there. I think it's just that they train harder, maybe because it's colder up there. I don't know.
It's good drugs in Canada too.
Maybe it's more accessible, right?
That's another thing. The laws are much more lax in Canada than they are in America.
True.
Yeah. So there's that potential too. Look, Canadians. Every Canadian I know, I've got a few Canadian clients, and they're tough, man. There's you tell them to eat sawdust, and they do it happen.
It's a much more hardcore environment. And you know what? The women back then in the 90s, too, were better because they all trained at Golds as well. So it wasn't just the men. It was the women were
it was everybody pushing everybody. The prevailing attitude was that when you walked into that gym, man or woman, you are going to be face to face with your competition.
Yeah.
And or the best in the world at at any given point of their career.
Yep.
That's tremendous. But you're right. The rivalry was cool, East Coast to West Coast, because I remember Diamond Gym, Bev's, Strong and Shapely, Bob Bonham's gym, and we're all shooting darts at in Gold's Venice and World Gym. There was a lot of that talk back and forth.
Who trains harder? And and coming from the East Coast, I'd say we did.
With better bodies too. Brian Moss's gym.
Yeah, early, and there was a lot of hardcore gyms. Johnny Latz in Manhattan. I know Victor trained there. So there was some really impressive physiques of that era.
So as an East Coast hardcore bodybuilder, what was your first impression when you landed in Mecca?
I remember exactly. It was 1994. I went out there right after, I think I had just competed or something like that, and or it was a couple months after. I was pretty big at this point. I was starting to put some size. And I wasn't like the Dave Palumbo, I was at the peak of my powers, but I was pretty impressive enough that when I went into Gold's Gym, I had 3 photographers chasing me, asking me who I was, because if you remember, they used to hang out there and they would just look for new talent, and they were like, "Who are you? We got to shoot you." I was shooting with people. I wasn't even in contest shape. I was shooting with people.
Jerry Frederick, remember him?
Jerry chased me. Paula, what was her name?
Paula Crane.
Paula Crane chased me.
She was my first photo shoot.
And Irv,
Irvin Gelb, Well, Irvin Gelb and what's his name? Jerry Frederick were like kind of a team. But Irv Gelb,
Jerry shot for Iron Man, and Irv was
it was Jerry and Irv Gelb, but who was the guy who hung out with Jerry Frederick? He passed away. He was an amazing.
Oh, it's Steve Neese.
No, not Steve Neese. No, he was let's talk about Steve Neese on another show. No, I was not Jewish guy. Great photographer.
The Ripper? Don Ripper Ross?
No, not Don Ross. A photographer.
Shot pictures too.
Shit. He did everything outside. Artie Zeller,
yes,
Artie Zeller. Artie Zeller was a really nice guy, man. We worked with him a little bit, and man, all those guys were hanging around. So what happened? So you walked in, and what did you think of? Did you immediately feel that that? What did you notice?
It was a nervous energy, but at the same time I had just gotten to Disneyland, that kind of thing. I was like, holy, I'm home. This is great. Wow. Just watching, I remember walking to Gold's from Main Street where we were walking all around. We had gone and eaten at the Firehouse, and obviously you see the top, the top 5 bodybuilders in the world eating in the Firehouse. And then you're walking to Gold's and you're seeing just the guys from the magazines just walking in the street. It was like I was in, you know how like you see these Hollywood movie sets, like, and you see all the top stars walking to the sets back in the heyday of Hollywood, where they would shoot all the stuff on one big place in California. That's what it was like for the bodybuilders. It was just, they were all over the place. Stridham and Mike Christian and the Barbarian Brothers and Flex and everyone was just there. It was nuts.
I used to love when you pull up in the afternoon and you had parking was limited in the front, so people used to wait for parking spots.
Flex, yeah.
And up front you've got Sean Ray in a Lamborghini with white sunglasses on, waiting. You got Flex Wheeler in a black Porsche Turbo. You got Paul Dillette in a Mercedes SL convertible, and you got another guy on a Harley, and they're all standing there waiting.
Just sitting in there. They're just sitting there
waiting for the parking spot.
And there were no cell phones, at least to talk on back then. That's the funny thing. They were just sitting listening to music,
But like the top 5 guys in the world, they're sitting in their respective, expensive cars waiting for the front row parking spot at Gold's.
Yeah.
And you can see that every day.
I know. It was funny but everyone it was a who's who. And you know what? You trained harder in there. There was no way you couldn't. I was at least 15 to 20% stronger in that gym. I didn't even know I thought the weights were lighter in there. It was just the energy in there,
And did you discover the mirror in the back?
Oh, of course, but with where the light came in through that garage door that was always open
in the morning.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh my God, your skin disappeared in that anatomy chart in that mirror.
It was an era that will never be duplicated because it's just a different world now. You and I right now are not in the same state. We're connected. We're like, might as well be sitting next to each other.
Right.
We could do that. We could do that with the guy in China right now, and no one would know that we're not in the same room. You couldn't do that in the 90s.
Nope.
You couldn't do that. You had to actually get on an airplane and go see the person. And that's the difference between today. There's no reason for people to go live all in one spot anymore because everyone's so connected by they're one text away from everyone in the world.
But it doesn't translate though.
I know,
there's no number of cell phones you could hang around your neck that is going to replicate the atmosphere of a place like Gold's Gym or World Gym in Venice during the height of that era of bodybuilding.
It's too busy now. People are too busy with social media. They don't have time to get on airplanes and actually spend time and actually socialize with each other and speak to each other in person because they're too busy checking Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, their personal emails, the PMs they get everywhere, WhatsApp. It's too much. It's too much. I'm so busy. I lose so many hours out of the day from checking all these things. And you know what? I have to because I'm actually making money from it. I don't know about anyone else out there. I'm making a living from this stuff. So this is my job. So I don't care. If I was bodybuilding now, at the elite level, it might not be as important to me. I still obviously do social media, but it wouldn't be as important. But this is my money. I know people that spend just as much time, and they're not making any money from it. They're just addicted to it.
Right. Yeah. It is.
Who has time to play video games anymore? You got to fucking check fucking Facebook and Instagram every 2 minutes to see who's posting what on there.
Yeah, I think that becomes a little too frenetic, and
it is. But if you disconnect yourself from that I don't even know what you want to call it, rat race, or once you're disconnected, unplugged, you might feel a little more peaceful. but you fall behind. You fall behind, and people who are in our industry want to stay they want to stay in touch with the pulse of what's going on, because as soon as you fall behind, I feel like that because. I'm a news agency. If I lose track of what's going on, then I can't report the news. No one's going to come to me and say Dave knows what he's talking about. So I got to stay on top of all this. So I understand that pace, but the difference is, once again, I'm doing this for a living. So this is my job. I can do it. People are like that, and they're not making money from it. So it's a different world we're in. And that's just, you can't go back to the innocence of the 90s anymore.
No, you can't. You can't, but I think the byproduct of that fact is that you're not getting those kinds of guys coming up out of the woodwork, coming up out of the ranks, and dominating, those battles. And I don't know, man. I guess you can piece together sort of a commentary that's part, just luck, part, a genetic boom, and part, hard work and the right atmosphere and the right attitude created that. It's just, I don't think we're ever going to see that again. And it's, I don't know. I don't understand why. I just, where are those genetic freaks anymore, and why aren't they working hard?
I don't know. I think that guys will work as hard as they need to, and I think that's really what it amounts to. And I think that the guys that are winning would be the guys that are winning if they were 20% better than they were. I just think no one's raising the game up of these guys, and it is what it is. It's the era we live in, and there's more, once again, instant gratification. You can do men's physique, you can do classic. You don't have to get so big anymore. There's an option. There was no option in the 90s. You had to do open bodybuilding. That was your option.
Right.
And you had to compete against Dorian Yates. That's who the guy you were shooting for was. Right? If you couldn't beat Yates, you're not going to be Mr. Olympia in anything. That's your only shot, was to beat Dorian Yates. So of course you trained as hard as Yates did. You ate as much as Yates did. You did everything you had to do to beat Dorian Yates, and that's just not out there anymore. You can be Brandon Hendrickson, who's Mr. Olympia in the men's physique. You can be Breon Ansley, who weighs 90 pounds and is the classic Mr. Olympia champ. So, or you could even be the 212 Olympia champ if you want. You don't have to be 280 pounds anymore to win the Olympia. So, I think less people are doing open bodybuilding.
Yeah.
And you're gonna water down the genetic pool because of that. Because now you're not gonna have as many guys who are as talented. You think Flex Wheeler would have done open bodybuilding? Nowadays he might have done classic physique, and he might be classic physique Olympia champ 4 times.
Yeah, I guess you had no the fact that you had no choice kind of pushed your direction.
I mean, Flex wasn't a big bone guy. What did he win the USA at? 212 pounds. 200.
Yeah, it was light, right?
I mean, 218 maybe. So he easily could have done classic if he had to. I mean.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. When he was standing next to Ronnie and
well, he was a lot bigger at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty cool, man. He looked amazing.
But would he have gotten that big? You know what I mean?
Well, no, but he had, but Dorian was.
He had to be Dorian. That's why he got so big. He had to be Dorian, and then he had to be Ronnie.
6 years,
Yeah.
And Dorian trained. That guy trained so freaking hard, man. It was that's. Probably him and Coleman. Nobody trained, I don't think, is insanely heavy, hard, and intense as those two guys.
No, and he, by his own admission, said that there was no plan B. There was no backup plan for me. If I didn't make it in bodybuilding, I was going to jail. I had nothing to fall back on.
Right,
at that point. Yeah. So he trained like his life depended on it. And he didn't know what was going on in Venice. He only heard or saw it in the magazines. That scared him even more than actually being next to those guys.
The mystery of it, right?
Yeah. So look, it was a different era. But the NPC Nationals is coming up this weekend. I won't be there because once again, everyone knows the story. I'm not going to rehash it a million times. Steve Carroll, kicked me out last year. Had to be removed by police because even though I had permission to be where I was, and he never apologized, even though Jim Mannion and JM, said that what he did was inappropriate and that it was not done properly, and that I did have permission to be back there, even though all the people that run the division agreed upon that. They'll never make Steve Carroll, apologize Steve Carroll will not be there forever. I guarantee it. They will get rid of him because he's an anachronism in that NPC Nationals show nowadays, and I think it's just going to be a matter of time. I'm not going to talk about it anymore, although I do have a lot of clients in the show, and I believe it's the greatest amateur show in the world, and I'll be rooting them on and covering it from the comfort of my home. Even though I could drive 2 hours and be there, but I'm not going there.
But nor should you. I mean, you shouldn't grace that. I mean, it's his loss that you're not covering.
It's the athlete's loss, really, but he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about the athletes. He just cares about their money.
Right.
So, my question is, why isn't he being looked over? Why isn't there no accountability for the way he is, bastardizing that show for his own gain? I mean, it's incredible what he's getting away with, and I don't think there are other promoters out there that are doing such a disservice to the public and the athletes.
Yeah, there's a few guys that are the leftovers from the old guard that need to be gotten rid of, and they'll get rid of him. You know what? That show should go to Steve Weinberger, and Steve Weinberger would do a phenomenal job with it. He gets it. He lets the press in. He understands social media. He's a hard guy in terms of business. He's no one's pushover, but he knows how to run a show, and you know what? He understands, because Bev used to compete, and he understands the athlete, and that's what it's about. Him and Bev would kill it at that show.
And he's the New York Pro is a wonderfully run show. I mean, he obviously knows what he's doing.
The New York Pro is probably the only pro show, aside from the Olympia and the Arnold, that actually makes money and sells out, and there's no amateur show to support it. Right, think about it. No one pays application fees for that show. No, and he's got to give away a lot of prize money, but he sells a ton of tickets because they know how to run a pro show. That's why.
And so, to me, it's a no-brainer that Weinberger should get the Nationals. I mean, it just makes total sense.
He's the senior guy there. He deserves that show more than anyone, and I'm sure he'd love to run that show because. Miami's the greatest state, the greatest city to have a show in it, I think. I would get it out of Miami. I think it's a sewer hole there.
It's so perfect there, though.
Yeah, but it's too hard to get around. There's traffic there. I would rather have it. Where did you used to live? In Hollywood? Fort
Lauderdale.
Yeah, that's where they should hold the show.
Yeah,
the weather's just as good there. It's beautiful. Yep. It's easy to drive around there. There's no traffic.
And then you can drive to South Beach during the day.
Yeah, if you want to go, if you want to go hang out on the South, you can go to Fort Lauderdale Beach. It's beautiful.
No, I mean South Beach. The restaurants, the shops, the nightlife.
It's too expensive in New York, in Miami anyway, because these bodybuilders they're too busy spending all their money on entry fees, $350.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
That's crazy too.
That's nuts.
I know.
But why isn't it? Why, if the NPC is an organization that grants sanctions to these shows, why aren't they universally constructed? Why is it that one national level pro qualifier is 350 and another one is 150? Right. Why isn't it just standard throughout the NPC?
They try to make it seem like the more important shows are higher, but you know what? You don't have to keep raising the entry fee. It served to have an entry fee when there was only 100 guys in the show because you had to pay your bills. I understand. Look, these promoters are doing it to make money. And there's bills to be paid, but you don't have to make $300,000 on the athletes. You can make a little less now that you have the volume of athletes because you have so many divisions. If you have 1,500 people in the show, charge $150 for the application fee. That's still a nice application fee. It's not greedy. There's no reason to charge a late fee. Okay, if you have enough time to get the person in the show, then you don't need to charge them a late fee. It's not taking it's not costing any more money to add someone to the list at this point. And that's it. That would make tons of money for the promoter still, pay all the bills, and you know what? It would make it more affordable for the athlete because these are athletes, John. They don't have a lot of money, especially the young ones.
Right. They should be spending it on contest prep and not the freaking entry fee. Right.
So anyway,
it's ludicrous.
The entry fee shouldn't be more than the airfare there. That's what I always say.
What's that?
The entry fee shouldn't cost more than the airfare.
And with the crossovers, I mean, come on. People are paying, 4 figures for contest.
Some of those master shows, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, because like you said before, Masters starts at 12 years old now.
and it's fine because everyone wants to be a champion. I'm not against making people pay for things. Just you don't have to charge them that much money, and I think that's something that needs to be explored.
It should be standard. It should be standard throughout the NPC. An entry fee is X, $100, whatever it is. Right. Doesn't matter if you're going to the Junior Nationals, the USA, the Junior USA, or wherever. Whatever pro qualifying show, national level show you're going in, it is $100. Period.
Or whatever they agree.
Or whatever they agree on. But it
shouldn't be $350. That's for sure.
It should not be $350. Nor should it be $350 in Carol's show and $250 at somebody else's show. Yeah. It should be the same. Because it's just unfair to the athletes. If an athlete is trying to program himself, for his contest prep and to peak, at that time of year during that show, why should he be penalized, $300 for doing that?
I know guys that can't afford to do these shows, John. I have clients, and I tell them, look, you should really do nationals. I think you're ready. Dave, I'm not going to do it till I have a chance of winning. Why? I just can't afford it. You know,
look at my GoFundMe accounts for people who want to compete.
That's crazy, right? That's crazy. Let's change gears for a second. So the nationals are coming up this weekend. It'll be a great show. Whether you and I, we're just voicing some of the things that we think need to be discussed. Because if you don't put it out there, then no one discusses it. Never gets rectified. And I think it's important that these are things that need to be adjusted. But I think that we'll see a lot of great champions in all the divisions, emerging. And you guys, whoever wins out there, whoever wins your overalls, just contact me after. I'll get you on the show. That'll be your interview.
Speaking of you guys, I think you guys ought to all write in, and we're going to make a petition to replace the promoter of the NPC Nationals. Replace Steve Carroll with Steve Weinberger.
Yeah, you should write to the NPC office.
That's what rightfully should happen to the sport and to the respect that show demands.
Deserves, yeah.
Deserves. And demands. Yes. So write in, everybody. Oust Steve Carroll, in with Steve Weinberger.
Just a perfect example of why Steve Carroll's completely out of date of what's going on now. He still has the contact for the travel agent on the poster. For travel arrangements, contact our travel agent. Who uses a travel agent anymore?
Like a 70s game show? Travel arrangements?
Yeah, travel arrangements.
Who does that?
I don't know. I don't think he understands that there's an internet actually that you can book your own reservations nowadays. Anyway, I want to talk. I want to keep the show under an hour just because I have a lot of work to do today, and we already did 2 hours yesterday. But I want to bring up the topic of Kai Green because our good friend Dan Solomon, congratulations to him on being promoted as one of the organizers of the Olympia now, and they got him in there to help, I guess, make the Olympia better. And we've talked about this. No one knows how to extract money and people out of the bodybuilding industry better than Dan Solomon. He just gets it. He's a good talker.
Very little effort.
Yeah, he's very good at getting people to do what he wants, and that's a talent. And I take my hat off to him. He thinks I bust his balls a little bit about it, but I'm actually jealous because he probably makes a lot more money from the industry and does at least a quarter of the work that I do. I'm just kidding, Dan. No, congratulations on your. But Dan, what Dan did was
for him. I think this is great.
Yeah, what Dan did in his first duty, I guess, is at AMI there was to get Kai Green into the main headquarters in AMI to talk at least. Now we don't know really what they were talking about. We saw that the posed picture in front of the AMI, studios there, whatever, the AMI building. With Dan and Kai, and we're assuming that they were there. And I texted Dan a little bit that they're trying to get Kai to do the Olympia in 19 because I think that's what everyone wants. That's what the fans want. I don't know if that's what Kai wants, but that's what the fans want for certain, and I'm sure AMI wants it. I think we have to first take a step back and understand why Kai stopped doing the Olympia. A lot of people think it was because of Phil. From what I understand and what you understand, because I think we both had the same conversation at different times with Kai. Kai was working for a company by the name of Muscle Meds, and Muscle Meds was buying advertising in Flex Magazine. And as part of their deal with Flex Magazine was, if we take ads in Flex Magazine, Kai will be sponsored by AMI. So AMI got Kai on the exclusive contract. They paid Kai via the money that they were receiving from Muscle Meds. So Muscle Meds was basically paying for Kai's contract. Right. Kai decided to not sign with Muscle Meds again, even though he was offered a lot of money. And I know that for a fact because my friend Gerard Dente owns the company at the time, and I think he owns it again, actually. And Gerard said we offered him a lot of money, I mean, a significant raise, and Kai didn't want it. Kai decided he was going to do his own thing, that, I guess, dynamic muscle, and he left. But when he left, he lost his AMI contract because that was all tied to the Muscle Meds contract.
Right.
Which Kai didn't understand why AMI would let him go. He's the second-ranked guy in the world, right?
Right.
So he was a little upset about that. And then I guess he decided, well, you know what, all right, if that's the case, fine. I want to get a booth for my new company at the Olympia Expo. And I think did they want to charge him for it or something like that?
Yes.
They wanted to charge him, and Kai didn't think that was appropriate, and he felt that they should just give it to him. I mean, given the fact that he was an AMI athlete, and I'm sure there's details I'm missing in there. And they said it got to the point where Kai wasn't no longer allowed in the expo or something like that. And he actually wound up doing an appearance the same weekend as the Olympia, not doing the Olympia at another gym or something like that. So that was at the City Athletic Club, I think he did.
Yeah, it's Jay's place.
And he after that he said he would never do the Olympia again because he just felt that no one was appreciating him there. Now, they don't need to appreciate Kai Green. The bottom line is they run a show. It's called the Mr. Olympia. Either you didn't want to do it or you don't want to do it. And I know up until the very last minute they had given Kai the ability to sign that contract and do that show. But he felt disrespected in some way, I guess, and he didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And he wasn't. For how many years has it been now? 3, 4 years?
Well, yeah, I guess.
Now Phil's out of the picture.
4 years, yeah, this is, I guess, the fourth. This would be the fourth year, yeah.
Phil's out of the picture now. Kai still walks around to 300 pounds. We've seen the pictures of him. He looks amazing. He looks like he can compete in 6 weeks at any show he wants to in the world. That's how he's looking size-wise and conditioning-wise. He did that one Arnold Classic 2 years ago, like just to kind of say I'm still here. And now people say, well, Phil's gone. That was one of Kai's impediments. He felt that he wasn't able to beat, they weren't letting him beat Phil. So the question is, does Kai come back now and try to win the Olympia, which was his original dream of dreams when he was a kid, right? What do you think is going to happen? Do you think that Dan is going to make this happen, or do you think that Kai has just had enough of the Olympia, period?
I don't know what Kai told you during your conversation with him, but I vividly remember what he said when I spoke with him in Mexico, and I don't think anymore it's a matter of money or the prestige of the title. I don't think he looks at the title the same way.
No.
As he once did. It's like tarnished now for him, Yeah, so
it's still Mr. Olympia. That's what he always wanted his whole life.
I guess we see it that way. Yeah, it is Mr. Olympia, and
it's the one thing he never won. He won everything else.
Right. True that. But I don't know. I mean, it's like saying whatever, a race car driver is looking for that one race he never won.
Well, how about a Hollywood actor who doesn't want to get that Oscar to kind of top off their career and validate it,
And validate it, and sure. But I just, Kai seems to have evolved, I think that he will always garner a tremendous income from the industry of bodybuilding if he stays, looking the way he does, guest appearances and whatever. Although I've never really seen him. He doesn't really guest pose a lot, but he should. I don't know. Is he looking at going back and, winning and going into the Arnold next year?
I don't know. Yeah, he's awfully big for someone who's not competing anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's no real reason.
Well, because he loves it. He loves being Kai Green.
I'm going to see him in Dubai. I'm going to interview him in Dubai in December because I know he's one of the he's on the list of. I'm going there. They bring me. Talk about, you want to see a good promoter. These people in Dubai.
Bader?
No, it's not Bader. It's
that's cool.
This guy, Nick. He runs the Dubai Muscle Show. Comes in, he's flying us in there, Sid and I. He's putting us up in a hotel. He's picking us up and dropping us off, and he's paying us, and he's doing all this great stuff because he wants the athletes, the top talent, which is going to be the top. Ronnie's going to be there, Jay, Bonac, Kai, Dana Lynn Bailey and Rob. It's going to be a who's who. Michelle Lewin. Anyone who's anyone is going to be at this show, and they want all these athletes interviewed up on this main stage in the expo there, and that's why they brought us in to do this. Luckily for you guys, the fans will be videotaping all this, assuming there were no glitches, and you'll get to see all this. So I'm gonna ask Kai point blank up on that stage. What's going on? Do you want to compete again? We'll get the answer right from his mouth.
Yeah, absolutely, and he'll be very honest and vocal about it. So to answer that question is my personal feeling based on this is a two-part answer. My personal feeling based on my experience with Kai, my conversation with Kai is no. However, in the malleable hands of Dan Solomon, I believe if there's anybody in this industry that could sway Kai's feelings and thinking about the Olympia, it's Dan Solomon.
Do you think what do you think would do it for Kai? An apology or money?
Well, money is always
good motivator.
It's like the salt on in the sauce.
Yeah,
it's just you got to be there to bring the flavor out. So the money is always going to be in one way or another a factor, whether it's a dominant driving force or not. I don't think it's an apology. I don't know if Dan has the ability to cobble together the concoction that's going to make Kai happy and accepting of the Olympia again.
I just don't know what would change. I don't know what they could possibly do, because I know AMI is not going to change the rules of the Olympia for Kai, other than to maybe give him a special invite. But I don't know. I don't know what could change. Do you think Kai just went there because he lives in New York and it was just kind of like, well, let me see what they have to say, that kind of thing?
Well, sure. And why wouldn't you want to talk to Dan? I mean, Dan's a great guy. I'll talk to Dan,
yeah.
And and Kai, they know each other. So what could it hurt? I don't think the fact that Kai met with him is any indication whatsoever of his inclination to be in the Olympia again. It just means that Dan and him are sat down and talked about.
Right, let me give you another situation that kind of was maybe like a similar situation in history. When Lou Ferrigno, how did they get Lou Ferrigno to make the comeback? Remember when he was 38 years old? What did Weider have to? Because if you remember the WBF, when Vince McMahon started that bodybuilding organization, Louis was going over there. I'm sure they threw a lot of.
He was over there.
He was over there. Yeah. He was, and then he went over to. He left and went to Weider. What was the motivating? How did they get Louis? Was it money?
Joe told him he was going to win the Olympia.
He lied, obviously.
But look,
was it a money thing though for Lou? Because I know Lou is motivated by money. I mean, who isn't?
Lou enjoys power,
right?
So the Olympia title for him was what he always wanted.
Yeah,
and to equalize him with Arnold. Arnold was always his nemesis.
Right.
So. That rivalry is as much as they love each other. The rivalry between them will always be, fresh. So for Louis to have an Olympia title, or even a Masters Olympia title, would have been what he wanted. And so they coerced him into it, and then they kind of pulled the rug out from under him. I thought it was really cruel.
Yeah.
This industry is not. The bodybuilding industry.
Kai, don't listen to that analogy. Bad analogy. Kai, don't listen to that analogy that we just gave.
Of Ferrigno?
Yeah. It won't happen to you.
No.
Well, Kai Green is a better bodybuilder than Lou was at that time.
Look, Kai Green, come on, man. Kai Green is one of the preeminent characters in our industry. He's way up there with the top name who's who you're ever going to get, and he's really interesting because, man, you talk to him and you got to pack a lunch, man. He's so out there, but I can relate to him and have his great.
The great thing is on bodybuilding stage, all his words are translated in body movements and art, and he's great at connecting with people through his art form, and I think that's really what he is. He's an artist, and artists sometimes can't express in words how much they're feeling inside, because there's so much there. And so they always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, a moving picture is worth even 1,000,000 words, and I think Kai just speaks volumes to you when you see him on stage posing and doing his routines and all that. I mean, and that's really what we're so drawn to, isn't it? I mean, maybe he doesn't have the greatest physique in the world anymore. He certainly did it at one point, even though he didn't win the Olympia.
What? No, I don't want to stop you right there. This was not discussed or assumed last night when Chris was on. Is it why is not competing for 2 years perceived as deleterious to his competition? I would think that 2 years of not competing would be a great rest for your body.
Nah, I think you lose the edge. You know what it is? I'll tell you why, because it goes back to what we were talking about, the guys training next to each other in Gold's Venice. Who's pushing Kai Green in the gym at this point? You know what I mean?
Somebody, because he weighs 300 freaking pounds.
That's just his body. He's holding on to the muscle. The thing is getting yourself into that peak contest shape. It's tough, when you haven't done it for a couple of years.
Absolutely.
You lose. Milos Sharshev explained it best. He said, Dave, remember that ripping tour I went on for a while? Like 2 years I was competing in like every show. I probably did 20 shows a year. I said, yeah, it was unbelievable. He goes, yeah. He goes, I did it for like 2 or 3 years, and then I said, I'm going to take a break. He goes, after I took that 6-month break, I couldn't get back. I was like, how did I do that? I just didn't have the desire anymore. I lost it. It was like by stopping, I lost that insane drive to keep doing it. And I think Kai lost that to a certain degree. Can he get ready for a show and get himself up? I'm sure. He's a consummate professional. But it's not as easy when you stay away. The longer you stay away from the stage, the more it's like, well, this non-dieting stuff is kind of fun. I can eat whatever I want.
Yeah, maybe for a normal human, but I don't think that would faze Kai. I think if anything, you would see a better Kai Green next week that's ready for a show. That's I'm going to maintain that position, and I believe it. Yeah. But it's up to Kai. Kai still has demons to conquer when it comes to pre-contest. So we all know he has a very difficult time. Yeah. In the last part of it, and that's he's got to be able to pull himself up and through that without Oscar or whoever.
Maybe he's got to go out to Oxygen Gym there and train out with those guys. They're hungry lions out there,
Yeah, maybe that'll do it, or maybe he just doesn't want to do this.
That's what I'm saying. I think he might have lost that eye of it. It might just be like, I'm comfortable. I like being big. I don't want to diet anymore.
So that's what I'm saying about why I'm saying no about the Olympia.
You might be right.
I just think he's past it. I just don't think it's. I mean, at one point, things can lose their luster. In your esteem.
Well, because you change your goals change. It doesn't become that important to you anymore.
Exactly. And whatever other pursuits he may be involved with, they may be pulling him further and further away from what the Olympia means to him or meant to him.
It's more important. It might be more important to us as the fans to see him compete than it is for him as a bodybuilder.
Exactly.
And that's the problem.
It's very selfish of us as a fan base to want Kai Green to compete, because who doesn't want to see that again?
Right.
Come on.
Right.
I mean, a Kai Green. What is the first thing you say after Kai Green posing routine? That's it?
Yeah, right. Everyone's disappointed now in his posing routines because you can never live up to the expectation of what we think it should be,
but you've been mesmerized. You don't realize, 4 minutes went by, and 3 music changes and a costume change.
Because we're expecting it now. We want to see more, I used to, at the end of her career, when I would watch Oksana Grashina's fitness routines, I wasn't that impressed. I'm like, she's not that good anymore because I'm spoiled already by all the craziness that she's done, the insane routines that she put out there. But it is what it. I'll ask Kai in December. We'll find out once and for all. Now, I just want to make a couple more comments before we go. There was a great study. How Blackman always used to do studies and I can study.
I don't know if you saw it today, the Journal of Prostate Urology and Anal Function.
Well, there was a study in Innsbruck.
Vitamin C, the finished particle size. Yeah.
There was a study in Innsbruck University in Austria. They were exploring people who drink black coffee. Do you drink black coffee?
Yes, I do.
Well, I do too. Well, we tend to be more likely to be psychopaths if you drink black coffee. That's what they concluded.
And there was another study that said men who wear skinny jeans find other men attractive.
1,000 people were studied in this little thing, and they found that people who enjoy bitter foods and drink are the same folks who like waterboarding in their spare time. They did a questionnaire, I guess.
Good black coffee is freaking awesome.
I know, I love it. I love it too.
Do you like dark roast? You like dark roast,
Dark,
right?
yeah. And I try to do decaffeinated. There's only one company that makes this decaffeinated dark roast. It's freaking unbelievable.
Did you remember Joni's in
Joni's
Marina
coffee
Del Rey?
roasted, man. I had a lot of coffee from that place over the years.
Was that they roasted the beans right
Oh,
there? I
that's
knew the
great.
guy. I forgot his name. Mark, somebody who started that first.
Oh, really?
His whole thing was the beans. He roasted the beans, and
You could buy their
smell
coffee
that
too. Yeah, I
2
used to buy
blocks away.
Oh, I loved it, man. It was great.
Wow.
Every morning I used to go there when I would be in town. I still, even recently when I went there, I went to Joni's. It's still there, and Joni's still there. The at least who they named it after. I don't know. I guess she owns it.
Yeah. So Joni was the owner.
She looks great. She's got to be in her 60s, and she still looks amazing. You know.
Yeah. Oh, into her 60s.
Yeah, maybe 70. Who knows?
Who knows? But that man, it was that. Every coffee was a pour over.
Yeah.
For all you coffee snobs out there, everyone was your own. You got your own personal drip. That was so cool. Man, that shit was good.
This is just like bios. Although the reason behind it isn't clear, one theory is that bitter foods like coffee, black coffee, in the wild were typically poisonous. So while most of us wouldn't want to ingest something potentially deadly, psychopaths get slightly turned on by the possibility of danger. There's their explanation for it.
Oh boy.
People who enjoy bitter foods or bitter taste may be compared to a roller coaster ride where people enjoy things that induce fear. Speaking of roller coasters, we took my son to my son's almost 3. We took him to a amusement little fair they had yesterday out here, the coconut festival here, and I got my wife was holding Amanda was holding the baby, so I went on all the most of the rides with him. My wife went on one little crazy slide that I wasn't going on. I'm afraid of heights. But I went on all the crazy rides with him, and they weren't too crazy. They were carnival rides. And he was loving it. He's fearless. I was petrified on the rides, John. I was shaking in my boots. I'm like, and I gotta portray myself as the strong father, right? Right.
You have no choice.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going on these little crazy rides, but yeah, it's we talked for about an hour about being a parent yesterday, so unfortunately we lost that whole conversation. We'll have to revisit that at some point. But
we'll do another show.
Yeah, but for now we're out of time. But guys, you know what? Remember, this coming weekend is the NPC Nationals. If you're in the Miami area and you want to stop by, and you have an extra $150 to buy a ticket, then feel free.
That you can't leave the building after you.
Right. But if you can, I'm sure there's plenty of websites. NPC News Online will have all the pictures. I'm not putting anything up. I will, however, interview all the winners. They will all have an open invitation to contact me after the show, and we'll get them on the Heavy Muscle show and talk about that. And then also anyone out there who wants to contribute to a possible Derek Anthony reunion show. Not really a reunion show, or show in memory of Derek Anthony, 5 years. If you have ideas or clips or anything like that you want to send my way, you can send them to huge285@AOL.com. I'm sure I'll get a lot of people doing that. I have to find that clip of you and him almost having a fist fight with each other on the air. Remember?
Yep.
I do miss Derek Anthony. Every once in a while I think about him, and I really say to myself, man, I just wish he would have listened a little more to us, and we could have kept him around.
Yep.
He had a lot of talents. He was very self-destructive though.
Misdirected. Very self-destructive.
As crazy as Boston Lloyd is, and he knows I love him too. He's got some kind of a survival mechanism inside him that he knows when to back off a little bit, and he's not quite. He doesn't have the temperament of Derek. I think what really killed Derek was he had high blood pressure, and
he exploited it. I mean, he was always had the veins sticking out of his neck.
And remember, all you'd have to do is push his button, he would go nuts.
Oh, online. Remember how he used to go crazy on GetBig.com with
these guys,
fighting with people, and he
was the first guy to do rants on YouTube. People don't remember that, right?
Right.
Remember his rants he would go on?
Yep.
He would talk into the camera. No one did that. There was no one who would actually talk into a camera and just scream at people.
He's screaming at people.
He invented that, I think. I don't think anyone else did it before him.
He
was the first guy with a webcam. He was
Yep.
screaming doing his own videos, just putting them up. I don't even know where he's putting them up. I guess it was on his YouTube channel, but
he had that or his whatever.
he had maybe the first YouTube channel of all time. He could have been a star nowadays if he was still around.
Yeah,
he would have had more subscribers than everyone probably.
What a wasted talent.
I know. I miss him.
But
all right.
Speaking of wasted talent, make sure you create a petition and send everybody sign it to get rid of Steve Carroll.
You know what? If anyone wants to complain, you send your complaints to the NPC main office. Because you know what?
Main office, you want Steve Carroll replaced by Steve Weinberger.
Yeah, or just replaced.
For the good of the show.
For the good of the bodybuilding world. It's too big of a show. Yeah.
Send your complaint directly to the NPC. They'll get them, and they'll have to do something about it.
Yeah.
If enough people complain.
I don't think he's going to be long for this bodybuilding.
The show deserves better.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It's such an honorable show.
It is, and the competitors and the audience deserve that experience, not to be abused and exploited.
You're right. You're right. Well, John, thank you for taking time and joining us this week. Hopefully, we'll get you back a little more frequently. I love to get you on Iron Rage, but sometimes you're in the middle of the workday, and I feel bad, and you can't do it, but. We'll try to work you into the lineup.
We started our careers together at 2:00 in the morning.
I know.
Okay,
I can't get anyone else to work that late. Only you and I will work that late.
That's the perfect time to do this shit, man. I mean, look. We had after hours. Remember, you might have to just. Okay, I know I left. You got a Cito in, took my place. I accept that. That's completely okay. Okay, but. You and I are still the original co-hosts of this show, and the fans like us together doing this show. So I think we owe it to them to do one.
Well, I got to just do an extra show with you then a week probably. Because radio's easy for us because I don't need anyone else. I can engineer it myself. Usually I can engineer it myself.
Usually.
I'm blaming Skype exclusively because, Skype has this new version out that's not compatible with anything, so I had to download the old version, and for some reason Skype keeps wanting to update itself because it's like Big Brother is watching, and it doesn't want to let you use the old versions. Every time I download the old version, I got to re-download it again because it upgrades itself by itself. I can't stop it, and the recording program doesn't recognize the new Skype. No one likes the new Skype. Why Skype changed the version, I have no idea.
These forced upgrades they should be illegal. I should have the right as a consumer to stay right where I am with the performance level of my devices.
If I want my flip phone and my BlackBerry, then I should be able to have them, right? God.
You know what? You want to know something? That freaking Motorola brick phone from 1985. Still to this day
95,
has best reception, a call clarity of any phone I have ever used.
You dated yourself when you said 85. There were no cell phones in 85.
Whatever it was, the Motorola brick phone was it 87, 88?
No, it was 90s. There was no cell phones in the 80s.
And it was in the 80s. It was in the late 80s. I know because
now you're going senile.
No, because I had one with me in my briefcase when the FBI interviewed me, and that was in 87.
Oh, you're talking about those they look like the phones that they use in the field, like the radios.
The brick phone. It's called the brick phone. It's like the size of a brick with an antenna on it.
They use them like when they're in Vietnam, like they put
right, right, exactly.
They could hit more. You could actually put Morse code on there as well if you're can't get a signal.
I got somebody out there, Phyllis, send in the correct date of the Motorola brick phone because I can't remember. But that phone was the bomb, and it's for call quality and clarity, it still is.
All right, that's it. We're running out of time. I'm going to be divorced if I don't get off this call. Good luck to all the competitors at the NPC Nationals this week. Yes. We're out of time until next week. Remember, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.